Hello, it's Amy. So I didn't get a chapter of A London Book Window by James Milne filmed and uploaded on Friday. So I thought I would sit down with my Sunday morning coffee here and A London Book Window and remedy that by reading aloud the next chapter in here. So I will set my coffee aside, and it's really good coffee this morning because when you first open a fresh bag and the first day to week and a half of the coffee is just really good, and then it sits around for a little while and your coffee isn't so good anymore. I mean, it's still coffee, but it's just not as good as those first week of cups. And yeah, that's Tim Hortons dark roast that I buy. So on to A London Book Window. And we are on to a chapter titled Epistles of Married Love. And epistles are, of course, referring to letters. So letters of married love, correspondence of married love. A real love story told in letters written by the lovers is the rarest thing in the world. And yet there are many real love stories. One does not mean passages between young people so much as the sweethearting that goes on through a married life. Perhaps most married lovers do not write letters, anyhow, do not keep or publish them, and that is sensible, for on paper sentiment may easily become sentimentality. Not, however, in the case of Lord and Lady Wolseley, famous soldier and gifted lady, whose letters, edited by their old friend Sir George Arthur, have been made public through the house of Heinemann. Somebody, directed to the book by this writing about it, may say, but these are not love letters in the full sense of the term. Listen, if a man and a woman, husband and wife for more than half a century, write to each other in the tenderest, most intimate way every day they are parted, what can such epistles be but love letters? Nay, they are true love letters, as compared with some of those enshrined in literature. Say, for example, George Sand's, which are letters of passion. Surely it is a finer thing to live sweetly in a love which is peace than to dally in a passion which is war to the nerves. Anyhow, it is more comfortable, and may one add with a national apology, more English. There's nothing half so sweet in life as love's young dream. You may, dear man or lady, change your mind, or at all events, allow for other possibilities, when you find Lord Wolseley saying to his wife, I wonder, as I pray for you every morning and every evening, if you are at the same time praying for me. And she, writing to him, I am more than a mother to you. Which of us would not desire a good woman to say that to us, knowing that it means the giving of her whole self, this divinity of motherhood, being the ultimate treasury of all womanhood? My dearest husband, Lady Wolseley opens some letter, adding within brackets, not that I have several. So you see, she had that playful humor which, shining from a loyal heart, will hold a man graciously until he and his Joan have burnt all their fires and silently stolen away. Never a puff of cloud darkened the atmosphere in which the Wolseleys lived together, for each other and for high purposes of service, because both were idealists, though he would call himself a man of action. I would, he says in one of his letters, infinitely prefer to lead some forlorn hope than to have written a Macaulay history or any poem that Browning ever penned. When he met and talked with William T. Stead, he wrote, he is a sort of man who in days of active revolution might be a serious danger. I looked at him, thinking if it should ever be my lot to have to hang or shoot him. Not much of the idealist there, you make the comment, and yet that flavor runs through his letters, evoked maybe by his wife. Still, she was realist enough to say of Queen Victoria, hurrying along a corridor at Windsor, she runs as if on casters, a living picture for Mr. Lytton Strachey. But Queen Victoria never ran away from anything, least of all from the prerogative which she had seized from the years, to rate her courtiers and even her advisers in natural affairs. She said to Lady Wolseley, when there was trouble in the Soudan in the 80s, I have been obliged to be very rude to them all. They are all so dilatory and tiresome. She also said at the same time that, though she needed rest, she dreaded to go abroad, for I never know what they will do when my back is turned. Poor dear royal lady, What would she have thought if she had still reigned in our day of clattering democracy? But she liked Arthur Balfour, of whose youthful port Lord Wolseley writes, I can't imagine how a man can exist with so little space allotted for boiler and internal mechanism. Naturally, there has been a growth of territory in the Earl of Balfour. There was so fine, so confident a love between the Wolsleys that, leaping the last ditch which may divide a husband and wife, they could say brave, clever things to each other or quote them from others. Addressing himself from Hatfield House on a Monday, the day after Sunday, his lordship observes to her ladyship that the Prince de Joinville had some passages with Rachel, and that their correspondence began with a letter from him which consisted of quand ou combien. No less brief was her answer, for her wit was no less, c'est ça chez moi, reine. Go away, my son, quoth a great Swedish minister, and see by what fools the world is governed. And Lord Wolseley recalled that for the military folly, as he thought, which High Plains civilians sometimes talked to him. Could country house life, as it often was in Victorian days, however be better described than in the French phrase entre deux repas? Some country visit brought my Lord Wolseley into a moment's talk with the Lady Cardigan of a notorious volume of memoirs, and says he to his wife, the painted relic of past scandals lives in a most charming house. The pen of Lord Wolseley could be quite caustic as well as graphic, and we find this when he goes abroad and writes to the people he meets. She is, he says, of the Empress of Kaiser William I of Germany, certainly the most forbidding-looking mortal I've ever laid eyes on. She is old, with a skin something of the color of mustard. She is scraggy, and was very décolletée, with her face covered with powder and a pair of painted eyebrows. But hideous though she be, she certainly has the ability to make herself very agreeable, and to say the right thing, for she showered compliments on Lord Wolseley. One gathers that he was always human enough and courtier enough to be above the agreeableness of praise. Otherwise, he would scarcely have had the nice diplomacy which helped to make him the only general of his day. Oh, there is no want of diversion, even as will have been gathered of piquancy in the letters of the Wolsleys, but it is the married love of them which always holds, and how could it be otherwise when one reads the last letter signed Garnet? My dearest of dear women, it opens, and it goes on. I love you as of yore, and I feel sure the last earthly thought that will pass through my brain whilst dying will be of you and for you. I pray that God will admit me into heaven, and when I get there, if I am permitted to do so, I shall take up a commanding position, past which all spirits and souls coming from our country must pass, so that I may be sure of meeting you. One can only say amen in salute to a spiritual love like that of the Wolsleys, and it is well we should have it known, though it was their own personal treasure. So that was Epistles of Married Love, about the Wolseley, Lord and Lady Wolseley. And just for reference, Wolseley, I'm assuming I'm probably pronouncing it correctly, but Wolseley is spelled Wolsley. And the next chapter here is titled An Essayist of Life. So I will set this aside and hopefully return to you on Friday with this next chapter.